Well, hello everyone. I hope you all are doing great this Sunday. I'm thinking I'm gonna upload this today. Today's Sunday. And so, a couple of things. I have created a new action set, and I know I haven't made one in a really long time. This one is definitely more for painterly portraits. So, it's going to probably be best used with images that have more of a painterly aspect to them to begin with, like my floral vintage backgrounds. If you're using those as an overlay in your images, these will work perfectly. I will go through them and show you step by step how to use them. All of my actions are basically used the same way. You open up the folder, turn everything off, start at the bottom, and work your way up, because an action is made using an existing photograph. Yes? So if you try to use an action on a photograph that particular action wasn't actually made for, it will require tweaking. And so what you do is you open it up, shut everything off, start at the bottom. Some layers you won't even want to use, other layers you'll want to reduce the opacity. Some layers require you to brush the effect on, but I will walk you through. And I was going through my gear because I'm going to sell off a few of my lenses, ones that I don't use very much, because I would really like to buy that new Sony G Master 50mm 1.2. So I want that, so I'm going to sell off a few lenses, and I was going through them and I remembered that I had this from my Canon days. Have any of you ever seen this particular lens? It's a Petzval, and this one I think is the 58mm, and it's got that really swirly bokeh. So it's a manual focus, and you get this little gear, which is your apertures. So this is what wide open aperture looks like. And when you're stopping it down and you're shooting at like f14 or something, that's what your aperture looks like. So it's kind of cool to see that. So when you're using this lens, you have to stick this little baby into this little part right here to get whatever aperture you want. And I think I'm going to do a demo of this for you. I haven't used it for years. I slapped it on my Sigma adapter here, and it works so much better than it worked with my Canon. Again, it's a sharpness issue, right? Like on my Canon, it was manual focus, but now that I have you know how on a Sony, if you adjust a manual focus, you get that red highlighting when you know when you're in focus? Oh, so much better to use this on a Sony. So I will do a demo with this in the coming days, because it's really super fun and it's not that expensive compared to all the other lenses. But in any event, let's get into this new action set. And additionally, I have included in the description just a sample of the first two actions in the set that you can download for free and try it out and see if you like it. Albeit the second action in the free sample is probably one of the more difficult ones to master. So I'll have to figure out if I want to do that or give you one of the easier ones, but let's get into it. And I had asked a few of the photographers in my group if they would send me their images so that you could see how these actions work on other people's images and not just mine. And as always, thanks for watching, and let's get into it. Hello, we are in the magical world of Photoshop, and I'm going to run through these new actions for you, and I hope that this makes sense. If you have any questions, as always, just leave them down in the description and I will reply. Okay, so as I stated earlier, hopefully I did, the best use for this particular set is more painterly portraits, meaning images like this, where I shot this in studio, but this is just one of my floral textured backdrops that I made a couple of months ago. And I find that these actions work really well with these particular images. I also have this image, which I shot with a 200 f 2.0 clearly years ago. And this one is a studio one. This image is from Tammy Bevins from my Facebook group. And this one is Monica. Monica sent 2 in. So this is my edit, but I will be demonstrating how I use actions on top of it. This is Monica's image as well. Again, my edit. This is Lawrence, who lives in Maui, and I will be doing a workshop in Maui this upcoming winter, and this is his image. And this is a fairy portrait that I will demo, and this is Dawn's image. Dawn is attending my workshop again this year. He was there at my last Virginia workshop too. So this is my edit on his image, and I will demo this one. And the reason why I have other people's images is because a lot of people think that they only work good on mine, but I will show you how to tweak these and make them actually work for your image. So this is the Painterly Portraits action set, and as you can see, we've got about 10 different actions. And this first one here is called Glowing Light, and this one I will demo on a different image because we already have a significant amount of glow around her. So this is what the image looks like using Painterly 4, and then I added coloring to it, which is, I'll demo this for you. Okay, so starting from the bottom, this is Painterly 4, just click play. And as with all of my actions, when it stops, it's asking you to do something. So this is the oil painting filter for use on hair or fur only. And so you click stop, and then you click on the black mask and make sure you have a white brush. You zoom in because this is only for hair. This is a really common technique that painters, digital painters use. And it's just really helpful when you have messy hair. I do tend to use the mixer brush on hair, especially if there's a lot of stray hairs. But this will really help clean it all up. You can use it as strong or as lightly as you want, but it's a really good technique for getting more luxurious looking hair and fur. You can use it on animal fur as well. And then once you finish that step, zoom back out. Just go ahead and click play again. So now we hit play and the rest of the action is applied. Open up this group, and I'm just going to pull this up and start at the top and turn everything off until you get to the point where you were painting on the hair. Okay, so this one here says paint contrast where needed. So it's already got a black mask. That means you use a white brush to apply the technique. So if I wanted her face to be more contrasty, or her in general, then this is where you would paint that on. This image is pretty high in contrast everywhere else, so I wouldn't apply it anywhere else. The next one is a color contrast. So you can see that it's added contrast and also color, and it looks really nice on her face. Now we just have a bunch of orange glows, and I'm just going to reduce the opacity on this. And this is the whole thing with these, is you have to come in and individualize each layer to make sure it suits your image. That looks good. And then we have, let's zoom out a bit, and you can see here we have pink at the bottom. We're just going to reduce that a little bit, and then we have some pink at the top. We'll reduce that one a little bit as well. Okay, and this is a vignette. So you can see once you apply that vignette, it's super dark. Some of you might not want the vignette, and if you don't, just leave it empty. But if you do, make sure you click on this white mask, get a black brush, and paint that vignette off your subject, because sometimes these vignettes are feathered drastically and they will spill onto your subject or subjects. So I always tell people, go in and just make sure you paint that off, especially if it's too dark. And don't forget as well, you can always come over here and you can reduce the opacity of that as well. So we're just waiting for Photoshop to catch up with me, and now just reduce that to suit. So if you close the whole group, you can turn it on and you can turn it off, and you can really see how that affected your image. Now, I do have another action that I like to use with it, and don't be afraid to combine these or other actions that you may have from me, because they all work really well together. The paint coloring one is, actually I'm going to just rename this because I want to remember. Okay, so this one just added some more oomph to the image, right? So if you take a look at before and then after, it does really help you have a painterly looking image. That's painterly 4 and 6 adding some color. Okay, next we're going to move on to Asha, and I know a lot of you are probably familiar with her because she's one of my best friends and I've also been shooting her for years. This was shot in springtime about 7 years ago when I first moved to Kelowna. For this one, I really like just adding that paint coloring to the image, period. And you can see how that just one little click and it just really made this image look beautiful. And again, that's painterly 6. So we're going to move on to Kayla. Now Kayla, I shot her when I taught at the Texas school quite a few years ago, and it's funny because I met her, I believe we were in New York maybe, yeah, when I was part of XXV Society. And I told her, I said, if you're going to be at Texas school, I want to turn you into Queen Elizabeth, because I just felt like she had such a authentic Queen Elizabeth look. So we actually did this at Texas school, and I really like my painterly black and white for this. So if I click it, you can see that it's a really, really beautiful black and white. And if you open up this action after you run it, there's a couple things you need to do. So the first layer is just the black and white conversion, which is great. The next layer is a sharpening. And so you just paint that on with a white brush wherever your image requires sharpening. And the last one here again is the vignette. So you can see here that I did paint off of the subject and a few other areas as well, but that is the black and white painterly. And this next image by Tammy, I'm going to turn all of this off, it's so cute. It's very unique to me. And so I used painterly 7 for this one, but what I'm going to do is just delete these. And this is actually the glow. So I'll show you how that works. So number 1, this first one up here is the glowing light. Just click play. And then all you do is grab a white brush. And I recommend being really low, somewhere around 3. And all you want to do is just so gently paint it on the perimeter of your subject, and don't worry about getting a little bit on the edge of their hair too, because this is just a little glowing technique that has that kind of ethereal look to it. Go really, really light with this. I wouldn't recommend going too dark. It gives a really nice glow. Let's just pull that up to 5. So something like that. See how it just adds a nice glow? And then the next one, okay, so this is the glow. I'm gonna go ahead and flatten it because sometimes if you don't, then the other actions don't work as well. Actually, let's undo that. I'm just gonna duplicate this bottom layer and combine these two because I like to keep the before. And I'm just gonna call this layer 1, just for giggles. Okay, now I'm going to click 7 on Tammy's image, and I'm just going to turn everything off like I usually do. The first one is a color change. It's up to you if you like it or you don't. You can adjust the opacity or you can keep going. This one is just darkening the bottom. I'm going to reduce that. Next one is darkening the top right. I don't need that for this image, and I don't need the bright right. I don't need the bright left. And you can paint on contrast here if you need it, and then here you can just add the selective color. But if you close this, you can see the difference in how this affected this image. All right, let's move on to Monica. These are the images that really shine with this particular action set. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to try Painterly 1. So Painterly 1 is probably the most challenging to use. It's also the free one I'm giving you. So I'm giving you Glow Light and Painterly 1 free as a download below. I'm just going to click it and click play. So use a soft white brush to effect onto the environment and or fabric only. And this is entirely up to you. You can see here that it kind of adds a little bit of mist, lightness to your environment. So if you really want that kind of cloudy, dreamy look, that's where this comes in. When you're finished that, just click play again. And this time it says using a soft white brush, 8% flow. I actually recommend more like a 3% flow for this because it is pretty powerful. And all you have to do, again, like the glow, is just paint around the perimeter because it's a glow. It's a little bit of glow. And you don't have to use it strictly just around your subject. If you want this glow anywhere else in the image, this is where you would just paint that on. So this one takes practice, but I think it's important for you guys to kind of learn a little bit more about how to make these actions suit your image. And they're not just one clickers, they're not a filter, this is an action. So you kind of have to make it work for your image. So that's before and after. You can go to your mask and you can feather it out just so it's a little more feathered, and click play again. Open up your whole group, turn those two off. This is color contrast, reduce it to suit, okay? Because some images it'll look perfect as soon as you click it, others it'll need to be reduced. And then this last one is the matte, and just reduce that to suit. Okay? And always click and always decide, go back, reduce, just make it suit your image any way that you think looks better. So that's the Painter Style 1. I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to come down to 4, click play. Again, this one has the oil paint filter for the hair. I don't need it for her because I've already painted her hair. Click play again. And this one is probably my favorite for outdoor images, and I know I've already showed it to you, but really this one is probably my favorite. So turn everything off, and here it says paint contrast where needed. So for this one I'll probably paint it onto her little face a bit. And then I'm going to turn this one on, and you can see this one is just reducing those yellows a bit and adding more contrast. And it's only at 27. I'm just going to reduce it to 20. This is our orange glow. You can see that in this image it really suits it better. Here's the other side of the orange glow. Reduce. Our pink is down there and our pink is up there, and you can see that all of that is perfect. So here's that vignette again. So turn on the vignette and you can decide if you want it or you don't. Maybe you don't want it. Maybe this is the way you want it to be. For this one, I'm just going to reduce it a little bit more. Oops, that's the wrong one, isn't it? Make sure you're on the right layer. Reduce it to about here and click on the mask and just use your black brush to make sure that that vignette is actually off your subject. Okay, close your group, turn it on and off, and then you can see maybe you want to reduce the whole opacity of your whole group. But that's before and that's after. And you may like it before, but you may also like it after. Entirely up to you. Okay, we're going to move on to this one. And again, this one I used Painterly 4. You can see what it looks like with that one that we just used on the previous one. I'm going to delete that. This one here is Painter 5. And this is only at 35% opacity because it's fairly strong. So I'll demo Painter 5 for you. Click play. This one is definitely more on the cool side, more like an evening kind of action. And this is what it looks like as soon as you click play. So open up the whole group, turn everything off all the way to the first one. And you can see this one here, this is a LUT, and we're gonna reduce it because it's pretty strong. So 15 looks okay. The next one is that kind of cyanish green color, which I actually really like. Now, attached to this layer is a levels adjustment. And the beauty of it is I added this because I want that particular evening light layer to be affected by your levels adjustment. And this way you can adjust it based on your image and not the image the action was created with. So when you get to this point, all you have to do is double click on levels and it's going to bring it up, and you can decide, okay, I want it to be a little bit more bright. So you can really just zero in and adjust to suit your image, which I think is so important for these. Okay, so that's how you can adjust the light in this particular one here. Next one is color toning. Looks like we've added a little bit of red into the shadows. And then this is that misty bottom. And if you ever want to change the color, just double click on this, click on gradient, come in here and choose a different color. Like maybe you want a gray, or you just want a hint, or maybe you want it darker. So you can always do that, and that way it's going to work better with your image as well. And this is the final matte. This matte is a little strong for this image, and you can also click on that and you can paint it off of your subject if you want her to pop out of the image more, while the rest of the environment is definitely more matte. Okay, close the group. That's before and that's after, and this is Painterly 5. The next image is the image by Lawrence, who is a photographer in Maui. He will be hosting my workshop this winter. This is his shot. This one, I just used the black and white because it's not a painterly image, right? This is definitely not painterly. It's totally photographic. And out of this set, I would recommend my black and white. This next one is a fairy portrait that I did a couple years ago. And this is my initial edit that I gave to the clients, but I used Painter 8 on this, and I just like how it adjusted all the highlights and everything. And you can see here if I turn everything off. So this was my base color, it's reducing the yellows. The next one is contrast color, and this one is adding a little bit of red. And this one here is my contrast, and all I did was paint a little bit more back on her face and paint off the vignette. So that one is number 8. And this one here is Dawn's image. So this again is not very painterly. It's definitely photographic. I used number 5 for this one. That's the same one I just showed you with that green lighting, and I think that it still looks super cool. It's a unique looking image, and I think that action really helped. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the description below, and the link to your free sample of these is down below as well. And I will have this set up in my store right away so you can purchase it if you're interested at all. Thanks guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.